later.
When you started that by saying, I have to cut this, I thought you were going to say the ash you can get at Applebee's as a trade weather spotter.
You had a badge. Tell you what, a storm's coming in tonight, honey, and his name's Ray. I can tell you there's a warm front developing right now down south.
And I'll have the Applebee's ribs and the fries. I'll have the fries with that. Thank you. That'll be all. All right, boys. Happy New Year's. Father Time. Baby New Year.
Raymond?
Good to see you, boy.
man. Yeah.
2026. Here it is. 2025 on our rearview mirror, but nothing but untrodden history in front of us. Unblemished. The world's nothing but opportunity.
Year 2 of the pod.
Year 2 of the pod, if you look at it like that. Yeah.
Right.
We sally forth.
All right, so the both of you, I know that the listeners are very eager to hear a follow-up because you both did kind of exciting things when we left everybody with the bonus pod. But I think we're going to start off with Brad. Brad, can you tell us a little bit about how the homage to National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation went?
Sure. Yeah, I think it was year 14. And we did a first this season. I think we talked maybe on a prior pod that the tradition has been the production that we do, which is always a scene from the classic National Lampoon Christmas Vacation. We would conceive of it around Thanksgiving time, and then we would stage, shoot, produce, edit, and release the entire production, if you will, and it has become a bit of a production. We would all do that from my parents' place in Washington, Iowa, on Christmas Eve. This year, we had a limited cast of characters, but one of the important members of the scene was my brother, who was not able to make the family Christmas. So he shot remotely in Tinley Park, Illinois, where he lives, a scene that was then texted into us, and then we did the other 2 pieces on site per tradition at my parents' place. So the scene we went for was a fairly well-known one with some audio. So it was 3 characters. It was Aunt Bethany, played by my niece Anna. I think she was making her first appearance, actually. So she was a first-time participant.
What's kept her from being in it before?
Well, she's often been more on the production side.
Oh, okay.
So she's been hair and makeup and lighting and,
right.
Film editing and all that,
right.
Which she actually did as well. So she not only did she play a role
right.
and had a quote-unquote speaking part, but she also strung it together. So Anna made her debut appearance as Aunt Bethany, and it's the scene where the squirrel, Aunt Bethany says, "Do you hear it? It's a funny squeaking sound."
Right, right.
So it cuts from her to Uncle Lewis, who was played by my brother Brent in Tinley Park, and he does you couldn't hear a dump truck going through a nitroglycerin plant.
Right, and so he was there. He shot his own video, with a cell phone or something, right?
Yeah, and I didn't even find out who. I mean, it was he had the whole get up because he had played that character in a prior scene a couple of years ago, and so he had the wig, and he had the suit, and he had the ring, and all the things. And so I think one of his kids, he has twin daughters. I think one of the twins, Maura or Maggie, did it. And he mailed that in. And then it cuts to Chevy looking into Clark looking into the tree. And that was played by me. So we had one of each of the Dunlap brother family members. So Anna from my brother Brian's family, Brent, and myself. And so it was just 3 characters. So a little bit limited cast versus some of the scenes we've done. But we did it with pretty high degree of accuracy again on the dialogue, and then we did some still shots and blast them out. Yeah.
How far away are you guys from buying an abandoned gas station to make a sound stage and to keep all the costumes and everything?
Well, Brian kind of started this whole thing, and he is the keeper of most of the common. The Santa costume, the Santa hat, the moose mugs themselves, and so forth. So he has a lot of the props at his place in Fairfield, but Brent, for some reason, still had retained, maybe the suit actually belongs to him. I can't know. I think he thrifted it, but in any case, he for some reason had the Uncle Lewis outfit. But there was a discussion that evening that we're going to have to kind of branch out we've done a lot of the iconic scenes that take place in the Griswold house.
Yeah.
And so my girls in particular are pushing us to start to do some potential footage that's not there. Like some of the office scenes, for example. The Merry Christmas scene.
Right.
Yep.
The gift scene in the boardroom and so forth. So that's kind of a little preview into what might be coming in future years.
Well, I will tell you, if you want to shoot any of this during the summer or anytime not during Thanksgiving or Christmas, I'm your guy, man.
All right. Yeah. The biggest scene that people ask about is the pool scene.
Right.
And so that is definitely one that's on our list. That'll have to be a summertime deal. And we have to figure out how we make it work and not weird in terms of like who's going to play the who's going to wear the red suit.
I don't know. I will tell you. I think that
could be kind of awkward.
We could shoot outside and do the sledding scene.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that's still out there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the driving scenes.
How far in advance do you guys do your casting? Like, who do you pick who's going to participate on camera, who's going to be in production?
Typically, we talk that through. There's ideation almost every year. As we're shooting it and as we're rolling it out, we talk kind of about next year. Mm-hmm. But then we don't really get serious until probably around Thanksgiving time the following year. And that's when we kind of decide who's going to play what role.
Does it get a little competitive for who's cast in what roles? Or are there some people who'd rather be on the backside of the production and not really on the camera? Is it the opposite? Is it hard to get people on camera?
It's a little bit more the latter.
Really?
I mean, well, the kids are all pretty willing participants.
Okay.
On the adult side, I would say both Stephanie, my wife, and Brent's wife, Jill, have been good sports and done it when the scene required it.
Sure.
But they're not like putting their hand up and fighting to get in it. They're very happy to kind of like sit in the background and judge all the craziness that's going on. And then my parents, interestingly, at first were kind of not sure, but they like if we ask them to do it, they do it willingly, but they're not asking to be in it. So amongst the brothers, we all just kind of like figure out who would fit that character the best, and do we have the right gear for that person. So it's kind of the kids we've tried to kind of work in. I think there's one of Brent's twins has not been in it. Jillian has, Anna has. I think we're just down to one family member who hasn't. Oh, and Emma, my daughter Emma, has always been in production. So we got to get her in.
Yeah,
I think a goal is in the next year or two. We have to round it out so that everyone's had a role.
Yeah, an appearance on screen.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoy him, and I enjoyed it this year.
We have a good time with it.
Even as we were sitting there, it still gave me heartburn thinking, why don't they do this earlier?
Yeah,
there's just got to be I would do 2/3 of it at Thanksgiving, and then I would finish out the rest of it. I'd get the cake like 2/3 baked, and then
I think it's a little bit, and I don't know that everyone in my family has this trait, but I did some of my best work in college under deadline. That's when you really dug deep and made it happen. And so I think that's a little bit of how we go. Like if we have too much time, then there's also a little bit of we could nit-nat around with this thing. Like you wouldn't, for the still photo of me looking into the tree.
Yeah.
I think I have some behind the scenes photos, which I should show you.
Right.
We had taken a yardstick of my mother's and we had wired garland around it and tried to get it into the exact shape of the tree so that it framed my face in the way that it does in the still picture from the film.
It was pretty close, yeah.
And so the time spent on shot number 1 was probably 30 minutes.
Yeah. I don't know.
And so that's when it starts to get ridiculous. Like dinner's getting ready and we haven't even got the first still shot done and we've got this. And then so we get this kind of sense of urgency where don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good enough because we have more work to do.
Sure.
So if we had unlimited time, I think it could take us. It would take
You'd
forever.
fill the time.
We'd fill the time.
Sure.
And we'd do retake after retake.
I don't know if you were thinking. I mean, we've heard enough of Brad's stories when he said, I did in college, I did some of my best work. I was like, God, please don't say naked. Because I've heard that story before and we couldn't.
Right.
We couldn't tell that story again. Not to our listeners.
But there's a sense of urgency because at some point we shot the whole thing. We shot it before dinner, and then we edited it after dinner, and then we blasted it. So there's kind of a little bit of a deadline looming that like we got to be ready to go, or we're gonna miss.
The turkey's gonna dry.
And
for
opening
real.
presents has to happen. So we've got this kind of
Jesus.
There's pressure, but I think it produces
I think you should go to a summer production schedule.
That would take some of the authenticity out of it,
Yeah,
probably,
yeah.
right? It's
Brad, in a couple of minutes, can you tell us about your trip to Chicago? Looked like you had a great time with your family.
Yeah, real fast. Both my daughters, when they were little, participated in dance when we were living in Chicagoland, and it was a big thing if you were part of the North Shore School of Dance, if you were selected to be in their production of the Nutcracker. So both my girls had a chance to be Sugar Plum Fairies in the production. So growing up, they were exposed to the Nutcracker. And so Emma, my youngest daughter, thought, hey, let's go see like a professional ballet production. So she kind of put out this request. What if we rambled into Chicago the Friday before Christmas? Stephanie's like, oh my God, it's the busiest. Like that's literally I have to wrap the presents. I'm trying to prepare the meal. So there was a lot going on, but we said, hey, let's do it. And so we went in and stayed with some friends, and we saw the Joffrey Ballet production of the Nutcracker at the Lyric Theater in Chicago. Stayed at a Terry McAllister Team X place. John knows him. He spent some time with Terry and been to his house, stayed at his house. So we were able to like see some friends, hit the ballet, which was awesome, and in a very festive time of year. And then we also hit the Kris Kringle Market or whatever it's called, like the authentic European Christmas scene or market at Daily Plaza. It was awesome. Like
Chicago's
I sent you guys a
great,
picture
man.
of like Krampus. There was a there was a stand to the Krampus character that we talked about on a prior pod, and the beer hall and the potato pancakes and just all the things you would maybe see and have if you were in Germany or Eastern Europe.
Is the market something you have to pay to get into?
No.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised. I thought it would be the case, but no.
They have called Millennial Park or whatever, but in Chicago where the Bean is.
Yeah.
I mean, they do have something where you pay to get into that, and there's ice skating, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, the market, I think, I love Chicago during Christmas,
was great.
man. It is the greatest
It really
place.
was nice.
And I take my, there's actually an underground tunnel system to Chicago not many people know about, and you can get around Chicago pretty good and not be above ground, but we're always up top. We're always I drag them into hotel lobbies to sit and have a drink, and I don't know, I love Chicago.
Yeah, it was wonderful. We had a really good time.
I heard something the other day that I can't give you the exact companies, but it was like, let's say 6 of the most well-known companies, ballet companies in the United States, 75% of their total take for the year is the Nutcracker.
That pays for the season.
Yeah, it pays for their season. It pays almost 75% of all of their shows for their company for the year. So for the dancers, it's a bit of a slog, that first couple, the first time you're in the company, it's kind of exciting to be a part of a national Nutcracker group. But after like year 3 or 4, you're like, oh yeah, we're just mules in the coal mine here, dancing so we can do some off, show. And John, you had a international trip to celebrate Christmas. I guess we'll start off with your trip to England.
I did, yeah. So it was a work trip prior to the holidays to finish up some business over there. But it did carry over from the end of one week to the start of the next week. So my wife tagged along with me, which allowed us to have a couple weekend days to knock around London at Christmas time, which was phenomenal. Like Chicago, it's an amazing city at that time of year with some really good Christmas markets. Not East Europe or German Christmas markets, but nonetheless,
British Christmas markets,
beautiful Christmas markets. Covent Garden is spectacular, and it's turned into a full market. And so we did that. And as I mentioned on the last pod, we had an opportunity to go see Christmas Carol at the Old Victorian Theater, which was a phenomenal experience.
The Old Vic is just a great space, man. It takes you there. You could just sit there and you get taken back pretty quick.
It was great, yeah. So we dined at a little steakhouse right by it, went to the show, and then afterwards is this really great British pub. We went and had a drink, just sitting kind of in the shadow of the lights of the Old Victorian Theater. So it was a really awesome experience.
So we talked briefly. There were 2 changes in the play. One I agreed with, one I didn't, but I can see why they did it because of staging issues. The first one was...
Well, yeah, I know we talked about this when I got back.
He was a mortician.
Yes, that was on a high level, the production was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Theater was amazing. You came in, it was theater in the round.
Yeah.
As you came in, they had characters walking the seating, handing out mincemeat pies and serving cider, which is just really cool.
Yeah.
And then the show started. Elements of it were, as you can imagine, just spectacular. And some of the scenes they presented were amazing. They did deviate from the script, which kept me from giving it an A++ review.
Right.
Fezziwig, who obviously, if you're a fan of the show, is kind of a competitive trader.
Right.
That ultimately Marley and Scrooge, they work for him and then put him out of business.
Right.
Well,
As boys, they, he's
Yes.
this huge personality, and he really embraced Christmas. And
Yes.
really, for those two boys, if they would have followed his lead, their lives would have been different.
Yes, and that's a key kind of component throughout the entire story. Well, in this version of the play, Fezziwig is a mortician.
Yeah.
And a young Scrooge is thinking about getting into that industry and then decides not to, and then Fezziwig's not revisited. So that's a pretty significant deviation from the story, which, not that it wasn't a good production, but being a traditionalist, I was like, okay, that really takes a little bit element out of the story.
But the second part, I do agree with. I think that this should have happened in the book, but where he, instead of Scrooge going out and visiting everybody.
Yes. So, and I agree with you. This was a deviation that I actually was a little on board with. But in this version, Scrooge sends carriages to the Cratchit home and to his nephew's house and brings people to his home to host a spontaneous feast. And the great part about the way they presented this, characters came out in the audience and gave people in the audience food, sausages, Brussels sprouts, baguettes, and encourage everyone to throw them onto the stage. So as the feast is taking place, there's just food being thrown down onto the stage. It was it really was cool and festive and all. And then the end of it, after the feast, they go caroling. And so the production ended with it like the lighting went to moonlight and an indoor snowstorm in the theater with them caroling by candlelight, which is a really cool ending. Different, but cool. So,
because in Dickens' book, the house that Scrooge lived in was Marley's house. I think when Marley died, Scrooge took that over, and then and then he had other importers. He turned basically Marley's house into a business. Scrooge lived in one room of this huge mansion, and it was cold. And I mean, everybody knows the story. But then at the very end, if you turn this place into a place of life and happiness, and it kind of changes the story. But I understand they did it for staging because they couldn't go to like 4 different places at the end. So,
and I did mention on the pod, a lot of the neighborhood where Dickens is said to have written the story and where he lived and was inspired. Becky actually wanted to go see that before we went to it, so we went to Leadenhall Market, which is where the famous poultry and poultry market was. We actually went to what was believed to be the inspiration of the Scrooge and Marley counting house and all that. Kind of pinpointed in the original manuscript, he described St. Paul's Church and how it sat, the tower and the bell, in proximity to their accounting house. So it was cool. We got to see some of the highlights, and I think I mentioned the Leadenhall Market, which where the poultry was. It was also the filming location for Diagon Alley and Harry Potter, and sure enough, in the middle of all the Christmas mayhem. And it's a beautiful market for Christmas. Huge tree, indoor snow the whole time. And then you get to the one wing and it's wizards and witchcraft and the leaky cauldron.
Well, I'm glad you had a chance to see that. It's not so hard to like put yourself in that time period when there's a huge chunk of the city that still kind of looks like it did.
It was, and I will actually kind of a funny story. One of our business colleagues we went out with one evening, and I actually heard someone refer to another gentleman as governor. At the bar we were at. So
not even in a joking way.
Not a joking way. So I had a chance to talk to Nat a little bit about the term governor, and it's still very much a term not used very often. You don't hear it as much, but you will still hear it. And British people understand that a governor is either someone who's has seniority in an organization or has a certain status level. And I told Becky I could get my mind around getting one of those kind of stovetop hats and going by governor.
John, I will give you as much leash as you think you need here, but you also went to the bowl game.
I did go to the bowl game, yep. We made a quick trip down to Tampa. Figured, one last run for the Hawks. Maybe one last bowl game. I don't know if bowl games are going to last very long. So a couple of us diehards rendezvoused, made it down there. Tampa was phenomenal. It was always a good time. Hit a couple pirate-themed dive bars, which was fun. Went to a Dracula-themed bar, wine bar, which
were these all down in Ybor City?
The pirate bars, yes. Obviously, Ybor. This little Dracula place was right by our hotel, kind of in downtown Tampa. So we made a couple fun spots. Went to an Irish pub that had prepared for Hawk fans and had a Guinness stamper. They were doing Tiger Hawks.
Tell me about How did that happen?
It was so cool. We kind of stumbled into the place waiting for the bowl parade to start. Went into this Irish pub, and as soon as we walked in the door, the guy's like, Hawk fans, we're ready for you. And he showed us his Guinness stamper that he had pre-programmed for Tiger Hawks. No Vanderbilt logos. He's like, yeah, we knew they wouldn't be here. So sure enough, by the time the night was over, it was pretty much all Iowa people in there. And we went back to celebrate after the bowl game. He invited us around behind bar for for a team picture that they wanted to keep on the bar there. So it was kind of a fun introduce ourselves. So James Joyce Irish Pub in Ybor City.
Let's talk about this a little bit. So with the Guinness, Guinness is a pretty old Irish beer. Their tappers have a 2-stage tapper. So the first stage is you pull it back, and it gives you a nitrogen and oxygen into the pour, which makes it foamy. And then once you get about a 1/4 inch of foam, then you pull the tapper forward, and it gives you a full Guinness beer with no. And so the what you're doing when you give it nitrogen or a head, like most time people said you didn't want a head of a beer, but with Guinness it releases the flavor. Now what bartenders have gotten good at is they will put designs or something in the head. So with the pour, they'll make a shamrock or something like that.
Almost like you might get on a cappuccino or something.
Right,
Like that,
yeah.
on a flavor, like a coffee where they can put designs in it. Yeah.
And what this guy did was...
So, yeah, this is a little bit newer school than that. And if you go to the Guinness Storehouse in Dublin, they'll do this where they'll take a selfie of you and put it on the foam of your beer. So it's kind of a laser stamping thing. So they poured the Guinness the proper way, just as you said. You pour it roughly 3/4 full, let it settle. They call it a bishop's collar, about a 3/4 inch foam head. And then you top it all the way up. And then you should top it so there's like a dome of foam at the top, the domage they call it.
Yeah.
And then after that process is done, then they put it underneath this machine, and it was kind of slick. I mean, they had, of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneer logos, all the local things you would want there, but they had a Tiger Hawk pre-programmed, and we'll put a picture of it on the Facebook page, but it would create a perfect Tiger Hawk.
Did it dust it with something? Like, how did it color it? Did you put anything in it?
No, I think it's like a consumable ink, non-nutrient cereal varnish.
Well, that was awesome. So we're going to, so we are still celebrating Christmas here. So we've got 3 gifts here. The first gift, John, I think you said Becky has a gift for us?
She does. So prior to the bowl trip, we had a family trip out to Breckenridge to do some skiing right after Christmas. Becky was generous enough to let me go meet some of the boys for the bowl game. After I departed, she and the family did a distillery tour at Breckenridge Distillery.
Yeah.
And she came across a dram that she particularly enjoyed and thought the boys at the pod would enjoy. So she brought us back a bottle for some in-studio sampling.
Oh, what is it?
Very nice. Thank you, Becky.
Yeah, so this is Breckenridge 2 Drams Whiskey, Colorado Pot Still Single Malt. So.
Well, thank you, Becky.
Very nice.
So that'll go.
She knows what
that'll
we like.
pair well with Jana's gift to us. If everybody gets your gift in front of you here.
All right. Get this thing up. Still fiddly farting around with it. What do we got here?
We're making sure we have the right one.
Yeah. So this is from the Wild Cherry Spoon Company.
Okay.
Which I don't know where they're from. These are shot glasses, and they are tooled from whiskey barrels.
Oh, very cool.
Sweet.
So they're tooled whiskey barrels, and nothing's been added to them. So when you put anything in it, whiskey,
Yeah.
It'll start to season it up.
Yeah. I mean, it's already seasoned now. If you just put regular water in it, when you drink the water, it tastes like whiskey.
Oh,
Okay.
excellent.
So it's so there's been nothing added to it.
Very nice. Thank you, Jana.
Well, should we break it in with a little
I feel
dwarf dram?
like it would be rude not to.
Is there something? They look the same. Is there something
No,
that's
they
different
are.
about them?
So one of them I've drank out of already.
Oh,
well.
was
There's
one
enough. It'll yeah.
All right.
Was one Malort flavored? Or
No,
what?
I had a whiskey in it. So
All right.
yeah, I had a little Angel's Envy in it. So
Okay.
Now it's gonna have some Breckenridge dram.
There we go. Combining two very generous gifts. Thank you, ladies.
all right, boys, 2026. Here's
Hey.
to good health and good wealth.
All right. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers! Like drinking out of the old school Grail.
Let's go.
Cheers,
It's awesome.
Oh, that is delicious.
Yeah.
Oh, I could see why she. Yeah, that is delightful. That is a nice little. That's a nice little whiskey there.
Very good.
All right,
Good.
John, you had one more gift.
We do. We have special gifts for the boys from my brother-in-law, Philip. He goes by Keeks
Okay.
Hager. And he has put together a little potential future merch opportunity for us and has gotten each of us a little swag that
What do we got there?
you can take a look at.
Oh, that is nice.
Super nice.
So we're looking at some hats here, and it is a Richards for the guys. It's a Richardson hat. It's a 112, so it's got that stiff bill, and then it's got a leather patch on the front of it. It's round. It says Deep Dive Pod DDP established 2025. Man, this is outstanding.
Awesome.
Our first merch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Kind of got a Carhartt thing to it almost.
cool, kind of a
like,
retro and our color theme on it. So
Yeah.
Keeks is a huge fan of the pod. I think he takes pride in on like Thursdays, oftentimes being the first person to download the pod. When
Right.
it drops on Thursdays, and he has been itching for some merch, and so he took our logo and had this made and put together. And then they actually presented me one of these at the family Christmas, and then I realized after I put it on, they all had them. That he'd got one for the entire family.
wow.
Very cool.
So Becky's family's all set. They're repping.
Wow.
In fact, I do have a picture we can throw up there of Becky and Keeks, I believe, rocking this at the Breckenridge Distillery when they got the
fantastic.
dram. So
Fantastic.
So we have some merch out there, and he generously has the logo and stuff ready to rock and roll if we are ready to repurpose it and put together some merch. So that's something maybe for 2026 coming soon.
Our new merch manager.
For sure. And we'll give a shout out for our Dyersville area listeners. Keeks owns Mr. Lock and Key out of Dyersville. So if you have any
I need to talk to him.
key
Yeah, I need a second key
master
for my
issues
car.
and things like that, he's your guy. So
Nice.
we'll give a free plug for the free swag.
All right, boys. Any more thoughts before we move forward?
I was just going to say, I think Angie actually hit me up with a very nice gift. I think it kind of came from a prior pod where we were talking about real trees. So a very thoughtful gift from John's sister-in-law, who's also already gifted you, Ray, the wonderful fireball competitor.
Right,
From,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So she's already...
Yeah.
The prairie fire.
And she got me the ornament that is a fire alarm.
Right.
So
So
to keep the house safe and sound and avoid house fires from the natural tree, which I just hauled out a couple days ago.
I was going to say, we actually do spontaneous, but we need a recap of how the tree went. So it's gone already.
It's been hauled out and left by the mailbox.
How was the
for
watering
city to come.
system? Did it work just the way you planned?
Yeah, everything went great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you just go down later. You don't even have to bend over anymore. You can just stand there and...
No. I didn't buy that.
It's like you're standing at the urinal at night after the family goes to
no,
bed.
No.
You
It's
can
the old school way. The old
do you have like a
plant.
special Christmas tree watering can?
No, it's just
it's
like
not
a
that?
regular plastic pot.
But you did get
know.
a new stand and a new base.
Yeah.
Was that easier?
It was great.
The tree
Yeah,
more
yeah.
erectus and
Yeah, it was very nice.
put a level on the trunk and it was perfect.
It only took 2 tries. So that was a win. And it stayed, although it did, by the time I came home, Stephanie decided to take down the stuff. I'm trying to remember when this was. I worked that particular day right before Christmas started and came home. And after the ornaments had been taken off, the tree kind of had this deformed, kind of slightly saggy left side. So it was time. It was time to get her down.
So I think the last thing before we move on, I'm curious. Did you give Christmas Story any of your time this holiday season?
I have to admit I did not.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I did tell the girls that we should watch it.
Another lost year at the Dunlap
yeah,
house.
Yeah, another fail. Another hard fail. Yeah.
Well, I didn't watch The Woman Stone or whatever you told us to watch. So.
Oh, no. It's done right.
4 Christmases.
I watched 4 Christmases again.
I took it
Fair
for
enough.
Christmas.
Fair enough.
I went back and you were very excited about like 3 or 4 things that Vince Vaughn was in, and
Yeah.
Reese Witherspoon. That's your.
Oh yeah. That was
I get
classic
the
stuff.
I got the feeling from the podcast that you would have the same enthusiasm if you watched it on a hot July day.
I don't know about that.
You know, I didn't get 4 Christmases start to finish. I think I saw most of it piecemeal, but the one scene I did not get to watch this year was the church.
Oh,
I don't need to see it because I've got a committed memory,
That's the
but
scene.
it's so great.
That's the scene.
It's
The
so
other
great.
scene is when they're at Vince's dad's place and he gets the dish.
Oh, yes.
That whole scene is just like I feel like I've seen I feel like I've
Oh,
lived
yeah.
that.
The best
before.
part about it, you didn't.
You
talk-
give me some cheapo dish.
No sex predators coming in here.
the minister in that scene is
Yeah.
Dwight Yoakam.
I know. He's amazing.
He's a great
fantastic.
actor. That was
Absolutely
really funny.
great.
So I did
Absolutely.
watch both of your recommendations. I watched them all. So
Okay.
Good for
Very
you.
good.
all right, boys, it's time to talk about our main topic today. For Gen X kids, winter break was a short-lived escape from the daily grind of 5th grade. And if you grew up in the Midwest or the Northeast, you might have gotten lucky and squeezed in a little extra time of freedom thanks to severe winter weather. Today's show is all about snow days and how the 3 of us Gen X kids spent those unexpected bonus days when school was suddenly canceled and anything felt possible.
Snow day.
Snow day. So, things are drastically different now. I have a couple kids, and we know if we're going to have a snow day, sometimes, 24 hours ahead, sometimes 12. It seems like there's a lot more snow days or a lot more days of no school now than when I was a kid. But, I mean, they get texts. They get phone calls. They get emails.
Voicemail goes out from the superintendent, right?
Right. And I would guess that is very helpful to parents to line up daycare and kind of, that's, I guess, maybe the difference between us, Gen X, and the kids now. Because if we didn't have school, then our parents like, there's peanut butter and jelly in the pantry, and there's loaf of bread. Knock yourself out. But yeah, I think it's pretty helpful. The other thing too is I think the reason that kids don't go to school now when it's cold or for whatever reasons that we still went to school is because we were probably the generation of the kids that like got frostbit feet or something. Like, we should probably call it when it's 32 below. But,
Right.
Yeah.
So John grew up in a city. Brad and I grew up in kind of smaller towns. John, how did you find out that there was no school?
So we would most frequently find out by just tuning in to Channel 9 and watching that scrolling ticker across the bottom.
Yeah.
You'd wait. The school districts would go by alphabetically. And that was normally the first method of alert for us. My mom was a teacher in the Iowa City School District, and talk about speaking to the times. She would get a call eventually from a phone tree, but it wasn't like a blast cell phone type situation.
Right.
And so by the time I percolated down to my mom, who was a second grade teacher at one of the buildings, oftentimes we would see the ticker before mom would get the call that the school was canceled. So it was, when you thought the snow was coming and stuff was starting to get canceled, you tuned in early evening to watch that ticker
In anticipation.
for the good. And then your point, I lived in town. And so we had both, regular busing and rural route busing for, the small handful of kids that lived out in the county that would come into school. And so sometimes you get that big tease where you'd see the Iowa City Community School District. It'd start coming on the screen, and then you'd see the parentheses.
Rural
route only.
Right.
Like, 3 kids don't have to come to school. The rest of us do. But more often than not, it was seeing the ticker.
Yeah. Brad, what was your situation?
Well, similar in the sense that my dad was an educator, and he was junior high principal. So like when I was in elementary school, I think my dad was at the junior high, and he was early on the phone tree. So I would usually hear it from him officially at, in the first few calls. And I was asking him about this the holidays because I knew we were going to talk a little bit about snow days. And the way it worked back in those days was it wasn't so much a criteria like certain temperatures. So I think now it's kind of tends to be like if the wind chill is X, we're not going to take the risk because we don't want kids outside walking to school or buses running. And in those days, the way my dad described it was we had a guy named Don Zawicki. He ran the bus barn. He was the director of transportation or something like that was his title. And Don, my dad told me, would, on a day where there was inclement weather, he would get in his car. He'd get up at 4 a.m. and go out and check the roads. Yeah. And go out and drive and say, do we want to send the buses out? Can the buses go out? Because like you said, Ray, much more mixed district in terms of a lot of country kids, some city kids as well, but a lot of people were bussed in, a pretty good percentage probably. Yeah. And so it was a lot about can the buses travel safely? And so Zwicky would go out early in the morning and test the roads himself. Yeah. And then he would make a recommendation to the superintendent of schools. They would consider it. They'd look at the forecast, and sometimes back in those days, you guys probably remember it. You could either have a full cancellation and they'd call it, or it'd be like, well, it might blow over or warm up a little bit, and so we'll do buses are delayed today and school will start 2 hours late, sort of a thing. And so he'd make the recommendation to the superintendent, who would ultimately make the call. And then they had a phone tree, and it was just literally calling up landlines early in the morning, and that's how I would often hear is my dad would get that call and we'd find out.
To your point, school was a road condition thing exclusively. Yeah. If the roads were dry and it was a minus 100 wind chill, you walked to school.
Yeah, we're still
now, you weren't having 100%. Outdoor recess.
No, that's a whole different animal. That's a different animal, which I guess we'll talk about. But
or heads up 7-Up.
But the decision on whether or not school was going or not was strictly road condition based. And even nowadays, they cancel school for heat. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was not a thing ever. We never had a sunny, hot day where we didn't go to school back in the day. Right. But Now they do.
Where I was from, we did not have television coverage. I mean, we had kind of a close regional television station that did have a crawler, but our fastest access to that information was our AM radio station. And so they would do a national top of the hour, and then they would do 90 seconds of commercials.
Standing ads.
Right. They do, for like Al Pharmacy or something like that. And then they would come back and do, 30 seconds of anything local. And so you basically had to wait 5 minutes before you knew whether or not you were going to have school that day. But that was our fastest way to find out. I will also say so we had a lot of country kids in my school district. The second part of our equation was we had all diesel buses and whether or not those buses would turn over. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it might be kind of dangerous to be out on the roads, but like, can you get over half of the buses to turn over? I think it's also important to point out at this point that as Gen Xers, we obviously had meteorologists, but it was nothing like what we have now. I mean, weather balloons actually had an important part of, did the weather, whatever's going on in Montana, did the weather balloons come to Iowa? Because there might be an outside chance that we're going to get that weather, or it might go north or whatever. The predictability is a lot better now than it was. So it was a bit of a crapshoot. You could hope. I remember there being a lot of hope. Like there was talk around the dinner table that you're like, we're supposed to get a lot of snow tonight. But you think, well, is it enough to call it off?
Right.
But
Right. Well, and you were talking about like rural districts and will the buses start? My wife went to a very rural district where like there were, Pekin of Packwood, and Pekin of Packwood is a school on a airstrip in the middle of the country, and like there's no real town of Packwood, or if there is, there's less than 100 people in it. So almost everyone was coming in by bus. And she had a pretty long bus route, and she was telling the story of when she was younger. She loaded up on the bus, and the bus was going down the road, and then the bus driver stops and turns around and starts redelivering kids.
Right.
And I don't know how he got the information, but the reason they decided they weren't going to have school that day was a bus went in the ditch.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, better not. That's what they did. I guess they maybe had a Don Sawicki type guy, but
Well, they would have had school, but that was the only bus.
Right.
Now it's in the ditch.
And like, in our generation, like 8 years earlier, the guy was over in Vietnam, and he's like, "No, I've got to deal with this. I've got 24 kids. I'm stuck in a snowdrift.
3 clicks to the school.
4 clicks north of Packwood."
Did those guys have CBs? Like, I don't know. How did that get? They didn't have cell phones, so how did that get? Like, someone walked up to Farmer Brown's house and they called
They probably
someone.
had CBs. Everybody had CBs back then. So I will say one thing. One thing though, if you did know that you weren't going to have school, like sometimes we had snowfalls back then that knocked everything out, and you knew you weren't going to have snow tomorrow. That totally changed the equation. If like at 6 o'clock at night, you knew you weren't going to have school the next day, that was all that everything changed.
Yeah, I think I know you were starting to go with the time of cancellation, and that was critical too, because if you knew there was an expected snow event, you'd be tuning into that evening broadcast, and it was gold to get that notification on or before the 10 o'clock news. But the other side of that coin is if it didn't come, but the snow was still coming overnight, then you had to change your morning routine. You had to get up like 6 to start watching that morning ticker to see if you were going to school, and it could have worked in your favor or not.
But if you went into dinner knowing you were going to have to get up the next day,
game changer.
Yeah.
Free Friday night.
A free Friday night in the middle of the week, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, for those of us that were a bit of late night nerds, it was a shot to watch Dave Letterman.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Johnny Carson, and then you got the whole Dave Letterman, and then you could explore that late night TV on the 4 channels, get into a Benny Hill on Iowa Public Television at like 11:30 that, you weren't ever supposed to watch. Your parents had no idea that you were viewing that.
Right. To see a buxom British woman in a swimsuit getting chased by a gorilla with a bobby hat on. What is this all about? But no, it's it really did change the whole equation. And I will even go as far as if you knew that you were going to get snowed in and somebody's parents both of them were out of the house, that you could have sleepovers even on a Wednesday night.
Technically school night, yeah.
So anyway, that was a big deal to kind of find out when you were going to have it. So after you found out that you weren't going to have school, like let's say that we knew that, let's say you found out like at 6 a.m, how did the tumbler start falling for you? I know this isn't every time, but were you a go out and hustle and shovel walks kid, or were you a go out and get you guys together and play snow football or sledding, or what were you?
At my house is all the above. I remember, I had two younger brothers, and so on a snow day we were enterprising. Like we had lawn jobs in the summer. We mowed Mrs. Fulton's lawn and Mrs. Stewart's lawn and the Schmidts, and so we would have that task. So we didn't have a snowblower. We would just get out the old shovels and clear walks and get paid for that. And then once you had that taken care of, it might be rolled down to Sunset Park. We lived not too far from a place where it didn't have a huge hill, but it was take the old flyer, with and do a little sledding, that kind of thing.
How far away was your hill from like where your house was?
It was like 2 blocks.
Oh, so you were really close.
Yeah. I didn't have to carry it too far.
John, what were you doing on snow days?
Well, it would start with snow football. If the conditions were conducive and you could get a crew together, snow football was where it all started.
The first part of every snow football game was taking your feet, making the out of bounds marks, and making the end zones, making what you thought was a 5-yard hash. Basically, so you spent all of this time. It was like a good hour, maybe hour and 20 minutes, just making the field.
Yep. And I still get nostalgic when you see a game on TV where there's snow at one of the few stadiums without a dome anymore. It just takes me right back to being a kid and snow days and snow football. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
So that was it. Sledding then would be like the number 2 thing, right? Get the crew together, everyone goes sledding. And this was maybe when we a little bit older, but when it was super inclement weather, and then after the Intellivision Atari days, we actually had a pretty good little run where we would set up an Olympics where we get all the
electronic
sport,
Olympics,
all the sport games,
and
you get a crew together and you work your way through each cassette and determine a bronze, silver, and gold winner in each sport and do that for the day and just sit there and drink soda and eat the junk food that was in the house and do that for the entire day.
Right. Yeah, we did a little of both. So there were some expectations. Well, first of all, we hustled. The same thing you said, Brad. There were people the people we mowed their lawns for. Yeah. They would also hire us to shovel their walks, which usually it was a little bit more effort, but quicker. So you could knock out, $20 or $30 by 11 o'clock. The other side of that coin was my parents identified like maybe 5 or 6 elderly people in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. They got their walk shoveled for free just because they didn't.
You had to take care of them.
Yeah, we would get cookies and hot chocolate and stuff like that. But so that was all part of the responsibility. There was no sloughing that off. But then usually, and I wasn't, the only one that was out hustling for cash. My other friends were too. And then usually there's kind of this loose agreement. About 1 o'clock, we would get together and sled or play football. That was the only exception to that is there was a industry within my area that would come alive. Like the theater would have 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock movies, which they would not have if school was in session or anything. And we kind of did stuff that we wouldn't normally always do, but it seemed like because it was a snow day, so bowling. I mean, we would. We had a bowling alley, but it seemed like on Friday and Saturday nights that most of the people who went bowling were people that were in league. Yeah, and so the school day would allow us to go bowling, and we had a roller skating rink that was kind of in a town adjacent. And I say this out loud because I hear myself telling my kids that they're not going to go do something because the roads are too bad. But we would drive 30 miles away to Moravia to go roller skating.
Can't go to school, but we could make it to the
Moravia. So
for the moon line.
Yeah, once the county got the roads cleared off, we would go roller skating with people in other counties. They would all come to this little town to go roller skating. But yeah, it did seem like we kind of did stuff that we wouldn't normally do on a...
Yeah, I was just thinking back now, and when you mentioned that, I think sometimes we'd go to the YMCA. We had a YMCA downtown Washington that was like not that far from where I was, and so you might roll, they'd be open. You'd go there and play pool or foosball or...
That's another thing we did. We had
shoot baskets or...
We had a pool hall, and we had an 8-table pool hall. it seemed like during the weekends, we could be like on 2 of the 8 tables. They had 2 snooker tables too. But it was old men, right?
Yeah.
And then when school was...
You're interrupting their vibe.
Right, yeah. I mean, they were there to get out of the house from their wives. But when school was there, I mean, we were in the pool hall, and we could go, whatever table we wanted to. We could try out, see what snooker was like. That's thanks for bringing that up. So, Brad, you had kind of something unique with a parent that was attached to the schools.
Yeah, I don't remember this specifically happening a ton on snow days, but one of the things that I think did happen occasionally, when my dad was at the junior high, he had a key to the building and school wasn't going on, and we might go over there and get out what were those little, what was the game that you played where you rolled around on those little
scooters,
things? Well, I can't remember what we would get those out.
No, but they're floor scooters or what they
fly
were.
Around on those little wooden four
wheels.
Four casters on them, basically. We'd fly around on those or get the dodgeballs out.
I think everybody had a friend whose parent was a teacher that had access. That was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
When they would say, hey, my mom's going to go into the office or my dad's got to go into the office and work a little bit, they said we could play in the gym. Like, let's do it.
Mm-hmm. Epic dodgeball, whatever.
Yeah. And you could actually
climb the rope,
play dodgeball with a real PE issued dodgeball and not some. No, that was great. I mean, and actually there was a town not too far away from us called Seymour where the kids knew how to break into the gym.
Yeah.
And it was much smaller than the town I was in. And we just basically went over there and played. Yeah, we took it over. And I never remember anybody from the school district coming in and telling us to get out. And we just, we didn't do anything that would show that we were even there. But everybody kind of had that access. That was great.
Yeah. The gym teacher, the weightlifting coach, who's got the key to the. And I think some athletes, I mean, I do think that there were kids that, like, on a school day, that if they were in basketball or something, they'd come in and they'd use the gym and shoot. When we were little junior high knuckleheads, we were just raising hell.
John, did you have a sledding hill?
We did. We had a couple decent sledding hills that were walkable to our school had a decent enough hill for, all relative, but when you're in 3rd, 4th grade, right? It felt like a big hill.
Right.
If you looked at it today, it might not feel that way. But we were also in enough proximity to City High School. So there's some hilly, streets and some hills around City High and stuff, especially when it was less developed back then, that neighborhood. So, we had access to some pretty decent sledding.
Our best hill was in City Park. And so it was the same walk for everybody. It was in the middle of town. It was a 6-block walk for everybody. So it was no matter where you were. And everybody would kind of agree. There would be a phone tree that you would meet there at a certain time because once you left, there was no calling it off. And even if somebody was going to call it off, you had to have somebody go to the hill and be there and say, hey, listen, we're not going to sled anymore. We're going to go do this. Just because it was, I guess, if you were there and nobody was there, you're like, they must have went somewhere. But our sledding hill was right in the middle of town, and it was called Devil's Hill.
Nah, what a great name.
Right? Yeah. And it had 2 or 3 bumps. So you could just go straight down it, or there was a part of it that had 2 or 3 bumps, and then there was a part of it that just dropped off. But if you went the part that had straight down, you could actually go up and over the road, and then it went down like towards this creek.
Yeah.
That
if you went into the creek, then there was water, your sledding day was done.
The best local sledding, and if you were lucky to have one of the dads load everyone in a station wagon and take you, was to Finkbine, the golf course.
Sure.
And I'm not sure, is it hole 7 that is the water hole? But anyway, it had a beautiful hill, and then that pond created just a natural jump. And so you'd get a jump, and you'd land out, and then once you hit the pond, you'd like go pick up speed and go across it. It was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it was it hurt a little bit, but you didn't care about that when you were a kid.
Right.
It was like who could jump the furthest, who could skate the furthest on the ice once you hit it. It was a great time.
So what was your outdoor kit when you were a kid?
The attire?
Yeah. So let's start from toe to head.
Toe to head. So we had the rubber boots that would have a felt, removable felt
the
liner.
muck boot. Yeah.
That would go inside the rubber boot.
Yeah, we called them, I think you could get them at like Kmart or Pomida back then. They would have the rubber toe, and then they would zip up the front. And I called them snowmobile boots.
Right.
And so that's what we had like when I was really little. And then I aspired to, a lot of the country kids
in Washington County, right? They had the almost to the knee green Northerners that were like water repellent and really high, and so you could tuck your stuff.
Duck hunting boots, huh?
Kind of like a duck hunting, and like my dad was an educator. We were city kids, but like a lot of the farm kids had those, and they were like kind of a prize, the equivalent of like maybe what became the Land's End duck boot, kind of thing. No one had them back then, or at least I don't remember that. But those were the kind of aspired to, and I remember kind of graduating to that. But we started with the super cheap, kind of hard. Like if you got kicked in the head, if you were sledding and someone like came down and kicked you with those what I called snowmobile boots, you
could kind of tell economically where a family was is if they had the northern boot with the felt or without the felt. Because with the felt,
I don't think mine were lined.
So with the felt, you could take your boots on and off. You could have socks. You could even be barefoot and take your boot on and off. Without the felt, it became this like tug of war, the suction tug of war to try to get this boot off.
Right.
And you'd had snow down there and you're trying to get it off and it just wasn't coming off.
Well, I also had, maybe it wasn't so much snow boots. I think they were snow boots, but I had some rubber ones that had cross clasps. Like you would pull it over and it would hook and then you would slam it the other direction.
Right.
Like at recess with the kids that had those rubber, it took forever to get those things on and off versus just sliding into the northern. They didn't have any clasps at all. It was just like butter.
I want to say, man, it was like 85, 86, 87 when the moon boot made its fashion.
Yeah.
And the moon boot, so it basically kind of looked like what astronauts would wear.
Yeah.
But they were the insulation on the moon boot was all cotton. So
they looked warmer than they were.
Yeah. So I mean, hey, they looked badass, man. They were made from a high-tech nylon and they looked badass in the when you'd walk
they were shiny.
And when you walked in the snow, they made a great pattern. But even if you just like got a little bit of snow down there, your feet were freezing because I mean that cotton was just holding on to every ounce of fluid.
I never had them.
And it made you wonder. I mean, you know how freaking cold it is on the moon?
Yeah.
And Neil Armstrong didn't seem to have that problem.
No. So, no, I did have a pair of moon boots, and I forced my parents to get them. And you
kind of regretted it.
Well, yeah, and you'd take them off, and they would be, like 90 pounds because they would hold so much water.
Yeah.
You immediately had to put them on top of a register to get them drying out, or they're going to be wet for the next...
You pulled them off, and you'd have like the snow pack that would come
falling out stuck on your sock. Oh, yeah.
A lot of our country would a lot of the kids would always wear bread wrappers.
We did the bread bags too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, such a
staple.
The other thing that I had long underwear. I mean, I had more than one pair of long underwear. I had maybe 3 pair of long underwear. Those 2 were cotton. They were not flannel. They were a cotton. So if you got those wet, you would get cold, but it was better than nothing.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I just remember telling my dad, like, I don't want to wear long underwear. I don't want to, my dad's like, nobody's ever going to see them. Nobody, who sees your underwear now? Like, and so he made that point. I put on long underwear when we went to a winter camp out for scouts, and I was like, all right,
I get it.
I need another pair of these.
Yeah.
The further I got into scouting, I had stuff that other kids didn't have. Like I had wool socks, and none of my friends had. I had 3 pairs of wool socks, and none of my friends had wool socks. I had wool hat and scarf.
Like I'm wearing wool socks right now, but like the wool of today, in terms of the comfort, and the wool of the 70s is a whole different thing. Because I remember my grandmother made us these Irish wool, knit them herself, and they were wonderfully warm.
Right.
But they were the scratchiest most. It was almost like wearing a Brillo pad. You had to have on a turtleneck, a cotton turtleneck, to make sure that your flesh didn't contact that sweater in any way, or you were going to...
I'm in merino socks right now. I'm in wool socks. I basically live in wool socks from Thanksgiving to...
It's not the same stuff.
No, merino wool is, at that point, that's like what mountain climbers had. I mean, there was it was so... and the other thing, too, is wool was so thick. And now I'm like in a thin wool and my feet are warm.
Right. I wish I would have kept those sweaters, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That my grandma... my wife and one of my daughters has a hand-me-down, and they were made in 73, right? They hold up, right?
Right.
as long as you kept them in the right storage or whatever. But it was almost like punishment to put them on.
Oh, they're scratchy. All right, so maybe the last thing we talk about is the coat. Did either of you guys have a parka?
I don't really remember having the traditional parka.
No.
I don't think I did.
So I did. I had the
Okay.
parka. It was a nylon parka. It looked a lot like what they would have been issued in the Korean War. It's had the fur on the top.
Yeah.
A lot of buckles. I remember there being
Yeah.
a lot of buckles. But the difference was it was all cotton batting. Same thing, once the first 3 or 4 times that you went down, whether it was the snow that went down your back or whether or not it was the the heat of your body, you were going to get cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were not going to win any fashion shows either.
Right.
So
I think we had like a JV version of them when we were really little, but like I never had like a proper one that I can recall. Like just when I was a really, really little guy.
yeah.
Yeah, I would
Just
say
a-
really, when you second, third grade,
Yeah.
I think my primary go-to winter coat was right out on those JCPenney catalogs. It was blue felt, Cowboys patch, silver,
Right. Leather jacket.
fake leather arms, and that was the winter coat.
That was I had the Packers version of that.
And
For
then
whatever
a
reason.
little bit older, more waist type ski coats. And then it was probably, mid late 80s, like Columbia came out with like a true shell, a liner jacket. But by that time, that was past elementary school.
So let's say we're 8 years old and snow was called. Your mom was a teacher, John?
Yeah, she was.
What was your mom doing?
She was a preschool teacher.
So both your parents were teachers. So at school day, you had both your parents there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You had at least one of your parents.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
guys
so snow days would be the opposite of a regular day because Mom and Dad would both leave early for work. So when it came to breakfast and doing
Right.
those kind of things and getting out the door, we did that ourselves.
Right.
Most days, snow days were the opposite because Mom would be there. But yeah, breakfast cooking and all those things that a lot of kids probably fend for themselves on snow days.
Yeah, that was me. I
Yeah.
mean, my mom was a nurse. My dad was in a factory.
Mm-hmm.
I was a scout, so all of my meals started off with me building a small contained fire that was manageable that I could
Yeah.
stay. Then I had a tin can, and then I was
Yeah.
Where's the cast iron skillet for the
Right.
microwave?
The warmest thing the Dunlap boys would do if we were unsupervised and we wanted to mix it would be like Legos. Or not Legos, Eggos. Legos. We didn't eat Eggos. The Lego waffle or a Hy-Vee version of that. We would do the discount version and we would just, they broke off real. You got them out of the freezer. They had a little freezer.
Would
burner
you
on
and
it,
one of your
crack 'em.
brothers stand there and when it popped up, both grab it at the same time? Let go my Eggo.
Lego, my Eggo.
Fight for
No,
it.
we didn't do that.
Oh,
But,
okay.
Like that's that, and maybe heating something up in the microwave. I don't even know what that would be. Pop-Tarts. That's the other thing. Pop-Tarts, waffles, cold cereal, peanut butter and jelly. That's the best. That's the best we could do.
8, 9, and
in
10,
those days.
I was on top of the stove, I guess. And I do remember we went through, I want to say it was like maybe 84, 85, a really bad snowy thing where we were like 2 or 3 days without school. And I went through like 2 gallons of milk and 2 things of Nestle Quick.
Okay.
So my mom's like, "Hey, listen, we gotta have milk. I can't be going out and getting a gallon of milk, and calorically, you cannot be drinking a whole thing of chocolate powder every day."
Right.
Did you guys have you heard of a Bullseye?
What's that?
So that is a piece of toast. You cut a little hole in it, crack an egg on it, throw it in the microwave for like
egg and
90
toast.
seconds. That was like
You
a
did that?
staple go-to.
Oh.
Well, and another thing we did as kids, and this came up at our family Christmas, and all the kids were kind of appalled by my sister and I telling the story of this, but we would eat milk toast. And is that a concept you guys? That was, I think, a very Texas thing, but it was just toast, heavily covered in sugar, hot milk.
Right.
So my grandpa would have that. He was the homesteader in South Dakota, and he called it depression cake.
Okay.
That's what he would have for dessert sometimes, is he would
Okay.
take white bread.
Right.
I don't think he toasted it. I think it was just like white bread,
Bread.
and then he would like sprinkle white sugar on it,
Right.
and pour milk on top
Hot
of it.
milk.
He called
Okay.
it
depression cake.
Yeah.
Sounds similar.
Same thing. We did it on toast with hot milk, and that was
right.
But
throw a
very
little
much a thing.
nutmeg or a little cinnamon and sugar on
Too
it. and
fancy.
Yeah.
Too fancy.
Wow, cinnamon and nutmeg.
Now you're getting close to a
Right.
French toast, right? You probably let it custardize, but we did not. It was 3 ingredients, or as Brad would say, 4 ingredients:
Jameson's.
sugar, bread, milk, and yeast.
So I did a little bit of homework on this because this was a distinct memory that I had. So back in 1983, Thanksgiving and Christmas, that was the year that I got my big Star Wars gift there. We had a huge blizzard on Thanksgiving, and then we had another huge blizzard on Christmas, and it shut everything down. You couldn't travel anywhere in the state of Iowa on 1983. And then we had another huge blizzard in February of 84. So that would have been the same winter. So Thanksgiving, Christmas, and in February, and in between there, it was super snowy.
Yeah.
Had a lot of snow days, and I remember at the end of the year having to do 2 full days, or maybe 3, that were past our school date, right?
Makeups.
And we went through maybe a week, and then we had to do a half day on Saturday. So we got up. It was, May, so there were still kind of fresh cartoons, new cartoons you hadn't seen before. And so that was going on in May. And then we took a bus. We were on a school bus on a Saturday. Mm-hmm. And then we went in and just, did a half day of nothing. And I'm sure the teachers were pissed because, they probably already scheduled houses to paint and however they made their detasseling their side hustle during the summer. And then we didn't even take lunch. We just went in. And I remember it being really hot. The windows were open because we hadn't seen the windows open a whole lot at school. And then we left a half day and went home. Mom and dad asked how the day went. We're like, fine. And then summer started. It's like we went right to the pool, and we were in school in the morning and we were at the pool in the afternoon.
Do you remember what you did for that half day when you were there? That actually,
it was nothing. I mean, it was like a lot of games. It was nothing.
I remember having maybe 1 or 2 of those. I don't remember being a Saturday, but they probably well could have been. But just an extra half day, and they would put on just like movies.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember watching like the Three Stooges at school and stuff like that. And in hindsight, I think because it was like reel to reel.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
They have that did someone bring that? Like,
my guess is
they have the Stooges on hand in the library. We never knew it.
So my guess is the AEA probably had that. The AEA had a bunch of really cool, interesting stuff that the school system would get in. And if you were a teacher that was on top of stuff, you would like go through the AEA book and like, oh yeah, Three Stooges. I'm going to get this just to take home. So
Okay.
they had a whole bunch of stuff they could use as teaching resources if they wanted to. But
Yeah, it was just such a waste because you'd have to go for 4 hours.
Yeah.
It was everyone in the room, lights out, and they'd put on the Three Stooges, and you'd sit there and watch it for like 4 hours and then go home.
Up until recently, it was by days, and now I think it's by class time. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's you're more apt to do things like that now than you were even back then. All right, boys, is it time for the speed round?
Let's speed it up.
Yeah.
All right. So back in the 70s and 80s, winter weather had simple names like blizzards, snow squalls, and cold snaps. But recently, it's been as if the atmosphere brought in a pricey image consultant and rebranded itself with ominous buzzwords such as bomb cyclone and polar vortex. In today's speed round, it's your job to decide which winter terms are real and which are completely made up. All right, so I have 5 terms here. I'm going to give you the name of the term and describe what it is, and then when we come back around, you'll tell me whether it is a real winter atmospheric term or whether it's made up. So the first is a grudge, or sometimes called a polar grudge, which is a cold air system that moves less than 1 mile in a 24-hour period. So is a grudge an atmospheric term? Snow donut. Snow donuts are rare natural phenomena where a cylindrical object blows in the wind and as it rolls, create layers, peeling off the layers and leaving a donut or sometimes a Swiss roll shaped object. And if you're lucky, it has a hole in the middle. That's snow donut. A snowpocalypse is an informal term for a severe winter storm, often a blizzard that significantly disrupts a region, paralyzing cities, shutting down transportation, and causing widespread chaos, even with rarely small amounts of snow due to the unpreparedness of an area.
I actually
snowpocalypse.
thought Ray was calling me a snow donut.
Yeah.
That's why I'm laughing. I thought that you had introduced the opening thing, and he was like, I thought at the end he described the first thing, and then he said snow donut, and I thought he was talking to one of us.
Oh, right.
And then he was going to call you know.
Snowpocalypse.
Yeah.
Snow donut. Snowpocalypse.
Sorry.
All right, so that was snowpocalypse.
I'm interrupting the flow.
The next is a cloud faux hole, or sometimes called a devil's faux hole. These clouds mostly appear west of the Rocky Mountains and high desert regions where a large circular gap opens up in a low-hanging cloud, allowing ice crystals to fall to the ground in a column formation. So a devil's faux hole. And last but not least, a frostquake. In a rare winter event where supercooled water saturated soil freezes, the soil expands and cracks, causing loud booms, pops, and minor ground shaking like an earthquake, a frostquake. So I'll read them back to you and you'll tell me whether this is true or false. A polar grudge, a cold air system that moves less than 1 mile in a 24-hour period.
No, not real.
John?
Yeah, I'm going to say this one is real.
This one is not real.
Okay.
I made this up. A polar grudge. A snow donut. A rare natural phenomenon where a cylindrical hollow snowball forms when wind and gravity rolls snow across the ground, peeling off layers and leaving a donut, sometimes with a hole in the middle. A snow donut.
I'm a no on that.
Yeah, I'm a no on that. I thought one of the first two had to be real, just why I went for the grudge, but I'm still going to stick no on this.
A snow donut's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe if I would have read it better, but yeah, it's Snow Donut is real.
Okay.
That is your new nickname, Snow Donut. Snowpocalypse, an informal term for a severe weather storm, often a blizzard that significantly disrupts a region, paralyzing cities, shutting down transportation, and causing widespread chaos. Snowpocalypse.
I think that's yeah.
I'm going to go yes, too.
Yeah. This, I think the first time that snowpocalypse happened, Atlanta got like an inch of snow, maybe a little bit less than an inch of snow, and Atlanta was shut down for like 5 days.
So it's interesting because Stephanie comes from a long line, maybe not a long line, but she comes from a family that cares about the weather, and so she watches it. And the girls and I have this joke, especially Emma and I, because Emma kind of pays attention to the weather. I'm not inside, we don't grow crops, all the things, but we have this whole shtick around weather people are kind of shady. And I don't mean that in like shady, they might steal your car or, get your internet password, but just shady from the standpoint of they'll say something, they'll make a prediction. And I've always found it to be wildly inaccurate. You're right. You talked about it earlier. They've dialed it in from the time that we were kids. But the reality is it's not that. It's a science, but it's a very, very approximate science.
Yeah. Well,
in my view,
I am very pro Joe Winters. I would trust Joe Winters with my house on a long vacation. He is
Joe's not going to steal from you.
No, he's a cyclist. He is a straight up he's
honorable
a funny
guy. I'm sure.
And he does his very best. And there is nobody I would rather turn to during tornado season than Joe Winters and the crew he has assembled.
I don't know my weather systems, my fronts, my cold fronts, my Doppler. I have a vague idea of it. And I know there are weather spotters. Marty Beanblossom, which some people think is a made-up name.
Right.
You know
I know
Amy,
Marty, yeah. We're fraternity brothers, yeah.
You know Amy Beanblossom.
I know Amy, good time Amy Beanblossom, yeah.
And Beanblossom almost sounds to some people like a made-up name. And there were also in Washington, Iowa, there's a family named the Turnip Seeds. So there's the Turnip Seeds and the Beanblossoms. I'm not kidding. I'm dead serious. And Lloyd Beanblossom,
the elder Beanblossom,
Marty's father,
was dating a turnip seed.
I think originally was a weather spotter for KGAN, and they'd say Lloyd Beanblossom has 3/8 of an inch down in Washington. Mm-hmm. And then he handed it over, and Marty, who's a mortuary scientist or a funeral home director, I don't know what the
proper nomenclature is.
Both
but
of them. Yeah. Both
yeah,
of them.
he's both. And he was a weather spotter. And so,
Yep.
like, I respect the weather spotter.
So I will tell you this, and this is going to be no surprise to either of the two of you, but I was a trained weather spotter. I guess at one time I was.
No surprise.
Right. So it was a 3-weekend deal. You go in, you learn what a shelf cloud is versus what, So I went in because I wanted to chase tornadoes. And the second weekend, they basically says, if you're a trained weather spotter, you're going to go set up and you stay in one spot. You don't chase storms. So you basically call in and say, I am at this address or this out, whatever. You give them your coordinates and you give them 3 calls and, all 3 calls can I see nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And meanwhile, you're seeing chatter on the internet like, I'm getting a shelf cloud over the top of Lake McBride and I'm seeing a funnel spout. And you're like, oh, I want to go chase that so bad.
Right. And you're stuck.
Right. So the only thing that you really get access to that's kind of interesting was once you get weather spotter training, then you get the phone number to Davenport, to the NOAA station. You would call in and say, I'm here. This is what I'm seeing. This is the wind speed. We're getting rain. We're getting hail. We're getting nothing.
Yeah.
And they would tell you, be prepared. You're going to get something in 20 minutes. Or they would say there's something south of you. They kind of let you know what everybody else is kind of seeing.
Did you have equipment for the wind speed?
Yeah. So you didn't. They told you how you can kind of guesstimate wind speed. So
did they say reach down, pick up a handful of grass?
Check it up.
It wasn't
Throw
too
it above
terribly
your head.
far away from there. So you identified a certain tree, and if it was moving a certain amount, then you could say it's between 15 and 25 miles an hour.
No kidding.
It's not too terribly far from, is the rock wet? Is the rock moving? Is the rock hot?
Okay.
So, I mean, they do kind of go over that wind speed and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, there are certain people that are really into storm spotting that take it upon themselves, that get stuff off of Amazon that, they mount on top of their car that does wind speed. And
Now, the care package you got had to have a sweet patch and a window sticker for your car or something.
you got a window sticker?
Sure.
You got a window
So the
sticker?
sheriff knew you were out there for purpose?
Right. And you had the pride of saying that you were
I love it.
community weather
I
spotter.
absolutely love it.
Yeah. So, all right.
I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good. That was a good trip down later.
When you started that by saying, I have to cut this, I thought you were going to say the ash you can get at Applebee's as a trade weather spotter.
You had a badge.
Tell you what, a storm's coming in tonight, honey, and his name's Ray. I can tell you there's a warm front developing right now down south.
And I'll have the Applebee's ribs and the fries. I'll have the fries for that. Thank you. That'll be all. All right, let's close this out.
Thank God Stephanie doesn't listen to these most of the time. Oh, shit.
All right.
So are we on number 3?
Snowpocalypse was real.
Okay.
A devil's faux hole. These clouds appear mostly west of the Rockies in the high desert regions, where a large circular gap opens in a low-hanging cloud, allowing ice crystals to fall into the ground in a column formation. The devil's faux hole. Brad?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that is made up. And last but not least, the frostquake, and a rare winter event where super cooled, saturated soil rapidly freezes, expanding and cracking the ground, causing loud booms, pops, and even shaking the earth, much like an earthquake, a frostquake.
I was 50-50 on it, but I'm going to go with real.
Yeah, I'm down with a frostquake.
Frostquakes are real.
Yeah.
All right, fellas, good to be back again together. First week of 2026. I hope this is a good one for both of you guys. Look forward to podding with you. We'll bring you a lot more stuff as we pod through the spring and summer. So thanks a lot. Bye-bye.